Okay, we are live, and oh my goodness, of course I need to adjust this. Yeah, that's better. All right, welcome. My name is Hannah. If this is your first time to my live stream, comment below, let me know. Kind of rhymes. I was in a full rhyming flow in our full moon ceremony yesterday, that's for sure. That was a big flow. All right, I have been not live on my public page for quite some time, and I just got really nervous. I've just come out of a 2-hour training in our Trust Intuition training school, but I go live and I'm all of a sudden nervous. Oh, it's hilarious. Okay, just give me a second. I guess I'm sharing that because people are like, oh, how do I do live streams? Oh, I'm so scared. And it's like, man, I still get scared when I'm doing this, right? So I just want to share this live stream so then I can be present with you. Just let my heart settle a minute. I've just been talking for 2 hours, but it's all good. Still going to get nervous. But I have a little bit of a sensitive topic to talk about today, so maybe that's why I'm also nervous. If you're in the healing, coaching, or mentoring industry, I can't stress this enough about what I'm about to talk about because it's a deal. It's a big deal. So let me know if you are in the healing industry, coaching or mentoring, or if you do this sort of healing work in any which way, shape or form, or if you've been on the other end of what I'm about to talk about by a healer, coach or mentor or psychologist or counselor or something. This might apply to you too. Hello again. So lovely to have you here. So you guys were in the Trust Intuition Training School, which Trust Intuition Training School is included in Transcendence Reality Society. So if you want all the things in Transcendence Reality Societies, where you get access to the Trust Intuition Training School, you get access to the full moon ceremony, you get access to all courses, meditations, all the things that get released, this is where you get access to them. So the Transcendence Reality Society, the investment increases today. Also, you can buy the entire package as well, which gives you the certification program too. So if you've got any questions about that, let me know. I'm just going to share this on my public personal page. Hang on a second. Getting there. I'm getting sidetracked talking already. Okay. Share to my feed. There we go. So the thing that sort of pulled me here this morning, and I really want to talk about this, is one of my students in the training school asked me a question. It was a really good question, and I got really fired up about it. And I was like, this is what I'm born for, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is why I do what I do, and I can't stress it enough. Yes, I'm banging the desk because it's so important. This is so important. And let me just bring these comments up here. The thing is that she asked me, she said, have you ever had any clients that go into psychosis or panic attacks or anything of that nature? And obviously, you know, I work with a lot of variety of clients. I work with clients who are going through heavy trauma coming out of domestic violence relationships, so healed childhood trauma. We go into past lives, we go into the interdimensional concepts and convergence of timelines. Like there's a whole pile. This is where obviously the advanced psychic development comes into it. I also get a lot of clients that come to me and tell me that counselors don't work, psychologists don't work. I've tried everything, nothing's worked. I also get clients who come in and they're ready to just activate their purpose and work on the purpose because they've done a lot of healing work and they're ready for the next level in their business, in their purpose itself, and understanding what that is, even if they feel like they're on purpose, it's like there's a bubbling of a next level coming out. So when she asked me this question, I got really like fired up in a sense of like, I was like, so I have not had a client that have gone into psychosis, into panic attacks or anything like that. And, you know, and I was like, I guess prodding them, and I was questioning, I said, well, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that is? Because I have had countless clients come to me and tell me that they've had a healing session and they've ended up in emergency in hospital. I've had clients come to me and tell me that they did a past life regression with a healer, apparently a healer, you know, 3 years ago, and they've been stuck in that trauma ever since. And within like a day of working with her, we cleared it. Like, and she's like, oh my God, have I really been in that for like 3 years? And I was like, yeah. And this is what I get passionate about. This is what I get fired about. This is what I get upset about, right? And the reason is because people don't understand the energetics. And so this is where you know, the coaches and the mentors and the healers that just say, okay, you just need to do this and then you're healed, or just change your mind. Just change your mind and it's fine. Just stop talking about the story. Stop reactivating that. Now, whilst there is truth in all of those pieces, this is where intuitive healing comes in. This is where I get so frustrated, agitated, fired up, pissed off when people like say these comments to these people and simply, or they try and do something with them and leave them in psychosis, leave them in more trauma, leave them in a state where they go into hospital, into emergency, because they've gone and saw a healer that's cut all these cords and they haven't done it, like they've just left it. I'm just like, if a client comes to you and they've never done this work before, or they've done a little bit and you go cutting all these cords, yeah, they're gonna end up in hospital. Like, it's so important to just not fuck around in this like situation. Like, you're dealing with people's psyche. You're dealing with deep emotional trauma that's buried. And if you unlock something and you haven't prepared them for that, if you haven't given them the skills to understand what the fuck you're even doing, like, you're going to end up in deep shit. Like, it's a thing, and it's why I'm passionate about what I do, what I do. It's why I teach in Trust Intuition to become a certified healer. For that reason, there is steps that you need to go through. Now, this is intuitive healing. There's steps and there's protocol, but that does not mean that you do that with every single client. Intuitive means you understand how not to send somebody into psychosis, how not to send them to emergency ER after they walk out of your office. You know how and where that person is at, because every single human being is different. And the way that their trauma, and this is the thing, people are like, oh, like, I haven't had big trauma. Like, that's not what's happened to me. Like, have you ever heard those people? They're like, I haven't had trauma. It's all you. You're the one with the trauma. And I'm like, oh my God. And this is where it like fires me up. I'm like, trauma can happen. Okay. Trauma has been given the label trauma. And from a societal stigma, we've put this sort of perception that it's this massive event and there's something really wrong with you, right? But what people don't understand is that trauma can happen from a little instance of like, we're going to meet up for coffee, and then at the last minute I pull out, and then you get really upset and you're like, what? Like, what? Like, that causes a trauma, right? And you might be like, oh, we're not catching up. Oh, okay, whatever. And you get on with it. People don't understand that that little shock in the timeline of a change of plan causes trauma. Trauma means there's a gap in the timeline. There's a freeze in the timeline. There's a stuck point in the timeline. Now, if you think to how many like little instances where you've been pulled off path, now some people might be like, oh, well, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. And it's like, yeah, there's layers there. That's right. There's layers. Yeah, in a sense of like, oh, it doesn't mean anything to you. Oh, that's interesting, because it's sitting there in your field. And then there's like a scar tissue, and then because it's sitting there, it attracts more, and then attracts more. And then this big thing happens and you're like, what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, because there's all these layers. And this is the thing where I get so like, yeah, like fired up and passionate that if you're going to do this healing work, if you're going to coach someone, if you're going to mentor someone, you want to be mindful of this person. You want to be mindful of their history. You want to be mindful of all of that. Now, some people come to me and tell me, or I've heard other coaches and mentors, and they're like, it doesn't matter about the history. You need to just focus on now and move forward. Now, whilst there's a time and a place for that, people who have been through big trauma, people who have, gone through things that are trying to change their life and are stuck, there's a timeline that does happen on healing. And then there's a timeline that happens on healing if they're actually doing the correct healing work. And what I mean by that is being coached and understood by someone who understands the level of not just trauma, not just mindset work, not just life purpose and wanting to change your life, not just like psychic development on its own, not just the spiritual realms on its own, but it's a whole picture. It's everything. And I get so frustrated and so agitated, and I've been on the receiving end from coaches and mentors who have no idea, right, about anything understanding of the spiritual convergence with a childhood trauma, with a current relationship, and with trying to change somebody's life. There are so many layers to that. And then just change your mind, just do something different. Whilst that comes to a point and it's a yes, the reason that that person doesn't shift is because the deeper trauma is sitting there holding them back like an anchor. That coach doesn't know what to do, and so they just judge them, make them feel worse, shrink back, don't understand what's happening because they don't feel like they got the message, but there's actually a deeper convergence going on. This is what I'm passionate about. And so if you are a coach, a healer, a mentor, and you understand that there's more than just calling in your angels or getting sunshine or changing your life and walking away from a domestic violence relationship, or understanding that trauma happens by a tiny little change of plans. This is so important to understand, right? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so true. You guys saying 100%. So what else do I want to say about this? I'm just going to turn the aircon on because of course it's getting hot as I all this. And start talking about all of this. So in Transcendence Reality Society, we dropped into this. So there's Transcendence Reality Society, which is the inner circle, which gives you access to all of my content, right? All of my trainings. And that means that in the Trust and Intuition Training School, we do weekly classes. Today was the sitting method, which is a very powerful healing method that you can do with anyone, anytime. There's obviously certain characteristics with it, but it's the way you speak to people. It's the way you hold yourself. As the healers we are, as the ancient blooded souls we are, as the ancient blooded healers that we are, right? We hold a certain vibration. We hold a deep, not just empathetic understanding. We shift people without even saying a word. And so those people that come in and put people into psychosis and send them off on their way, right? Send them to ER, they have missed a huge chunk of their own power. You do not need to do much as a healer, as a coach. If you truly understood who you were, and if you truly understood your power, if you truly understood your gift, because if you're here, if you're watching this, you sense things, you pick up things, you understand a lot more things than other people do. And you shouldn't really understand that because it's not like you have a training in it, but you know things and it's common sense to you, and you're well, why, how come you didn't know that? That's just common sense. This is actually your gift, right? This is actually your gift. And because you don't recognize that, you brush that off, and then you sort of step back into your training. And this is where the intuitive healing comes into it, but you have to understand yourself to be able to do that. Understand your gift, understand your power, understand the psychic development that you work with in yourself, understand how your intuition speaks to you. And if you're not clear on these things, you're not actively working on these things, you shouldn't be coaching, you shouldn't be mentoring, and you shouldn't be healing people, professionally or on a friend basis. So in Transcendence Reality Society, this is where the skills are gained. This is where understanding yourself, the psychic development, understanding how your intuition speaks to you, understanding the layers and the levels of trauma. Because even though somebody comes in and they're like, I just want to like strengthen my psychic gifts and I don't have any trauma, it's like a big red flag in my opinion when they say anything like that. But at the same time, it's like, it's the doorway in. And if you don't understand that doing psychic readings for people or just, you know, getting on and doing healings or whatever is the mainstream's way of the doorway into the deeper stuff, if you're not aware of what you're doing with that person by just even giving them a psychic reading, then I would rethink what you're doing or get into Transcendence Reality Society, because this is where you start to understand your skills, your gifts for yourself. And then also understanding that you only need to utter 1 or 2 words and you heal that person. Because it's not about what you say, it's about the energy you hold. It's about the way that you hold space. And today's class, specifically in the sitting method in the Trust Intuition Training School, that's included in the inner circle. So when you're in Transcendence Reality Society, TRS as they call it, that's the inner circle. You get access to everything. It's 2 different levels you can join that, right? Larimar gives you fully everything. Selenite gives you just all the classes and courses. So when you understand your energy, your gifts, your skills, because if you're here watching this, you're probably confused about that. You might say something, someone will shut you down, you're like, oh, and then you doubt yourself. And that's because you're, number one, hanging around the wrong people, but you also don't realize the way that your intuition is talking to you. This is where you need to fine tune that. You can have a client come into you and not do any healing process, no Reiki, no hands-on healing, no nothing. And you can just sit there with them and they will walk out feeling like nobody's ever helped them the way that you have, and you just sat there with them in a way. You basically sat there with them. There is a skill to that, but when you understand the level of your power in that, you will understand why you don't fit in the world. You will understand why every group or, you know, event or situation that's happened in your life, you will start to understand why that is the way that it is. You'll be like, oh, right? Because you'll feel like you've never fit in. You'll feel like you're never part of any group. You'll feel like you're on the outskirts. You're definitely the black sheep of the family, right? And you do dim your light because you don't want to lose that. So this is where you get to gain those skills. This is where you increase those skills, yeah? So the link is in the title of this live stream. I'll pop it in here as well for you in the comments. If you've got any questions about what we've just spoken about, pop them in the comments now. And I'm just gonna pull a card to confirm what we're talking about here. Yeah, so let me know if you've got any questions, even if you're watching the replay as well. Yeah, all of the above. It's so important, right? It's so important. It's so important. Right. So I always look at the bottom card of the deck. I know it's back to front. I haven't turned the camera around. Your wishes are coming true. What your heart has been longing for is coming closer every day. You are a healer and you can do this, and you wouldn't be here at Reality Awareness if you weren't ready to step that up a level, step it up a notch. It doesn't mean that you have to like step into this as a career, but you already help people. People tell you their story when you're walking, like you just met them and they just end up, you can't even get a word in. They just tell you everything and you're like, oh, I've never told anyone that before. And you're like, I hear that all the time, right? It's so interesting. What I just pulled up is past life healing, like no joke. Like I said, I know it's back to front, but look, past life healing, you can read backwards. You should be able to, it's one of our skills. Emotional healing, it's the bleeding heart tetra. It's safe for you to let go of old emotional pain. By doing so, you allow your heart to mend. Like, what are we talking about here for real? So past life, emotional healing, and then share the message of love. Rivers of love flow within you and others may benefit from this healing energy, basically telling you that you're a healer. Be mindful of each word that passes your lips. I know it's back to front, but like it literally says that down the bottom. I'm not making this shit up. You can't make this shit up, right? Like, seriously, I just literally was speaking about all of this. Past life, I was talking about the past life convergence, the childhood trauma, current life trauma. You know, you've got to understand what you're dealing with here. It's not just this realm, it's not just childhood, it's multidimensional, right? There's the bleeding heart, the emotional healing, and then this one, be mindful of every word that passes your lips, which is exactly what I was just talking about, right? Oh my God, it's hilarious. Oh, so Kelly says inner child nervous system trauma. Yeah, people do that all the time. Exactly, right? Yep. Look, and become the true you and take the first step to be able to do that. Yep, you'll hear that all the time. Oh, I've never told anyone that before. What? Yes, exactly that. All right, does anyone have any questions before I jump off this live stream? If you're just jumping on now, definitely watch the replay. If you're a coach, healer, mentor, or if you think you are this, or you have a gift, or you sense energy, or random people tell you the whole story, like, you know, and then they're like, I never told anyone that before. What? Yeah. Jenna says, bottom card, I find the bird's eye view. Yes, overlying message. Yeah, I've said that for years. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to see you guys real soon. Transcendence Reality Society, link in the comments. And the last 2 weeks have been like huge recalibration in my business. So I'll be seeing you on live stream a lot more.